Hi, in this video I want to go through some of the answers to the questions all about MapF. You should by now have worked through the questions relating to this map, so let's see what you've come up with. The first question, I ask you to highlight the igneous rocks that are shown on this map. So if you use the key, you should get a result that looks something like this. We've got andesite, we've got basalt, and we've got dolerite. The rest of the rocks on this map are all sedimentary. Okay, we then moved on to photograph F and labelling up photograph F to recognise some of the key features. You can see we've got the dark coloured igneous rock in the middle there, that's the basalt. The country rock there, which if we look at the map we can see will be a conglomerate. And if you look carefully you can see the large rounded clasts within that rock that make it a conglomerate. We've got the sedimentary bedding then, clearly at an angle, so it's dipping. And we can see as well the baked margin, the area of the country rock that's been altered by the heat of the intrusion of that igneous rock. And it's a really clear igneous feature there. And notice how it cuts across the bedding within that rock. Okay. We then had to identify the igneous rocks and the type of igneous bodies that we find these in. So we've got andesite, we've got basalt, and we've got dolerite. We can tell that, of course, from the key to each of these maps. Now the andesite here is in a dike. That's the zone that's coloured red. It's got like the black and red squares on it. That forms a dike. It's long and thin and it's discordant. It's cutting across the bedding in this area. The basalt, coloured yellow, is also a dike. Again, it's long and thin, and again it cuts across the bedding. Notice it's not exactly at right angles to the bedding, but it doesn't matter, it's still cutting across. Finally then, the dolerite, coloured in green on the map, that makes a sill. Because the dolerite there is concordant, it's following the bedding there, the gap between the shale and the limestone, so therefore it's concordant. Okay. I then asked you about safety precautions. Clearly the person in this in photograph F there hasn't really heeded those. She desperately needs to wear a helmet. That doesn't look like a particularly solid cliff face, not that many of them are. Clearly it's being eroded currently. It's in a river gorge. You can see the pebbles at the bottom there from the river gorge. And it's also extremely steep. There is rock well above head height. They need to be wearing a helmet. Okay, if a small bit of rock falls off there, that could do some serious damage. Okay. I then asked you to sort out the age of 4 of these rocks. Let's put the answers in. Here we go. The oldest rock here is the conglomerate. We can see that the basalt and the andesite both cut across that conglomerate. So therefore the conglomerate had to be there first. The basalt then cuts across the conglomerate, so must be younger than the conglomerate. But if you look where it comes into contact with the dolerite, you'll see the dolerite cuts across the basalt. So the dolerite must have come along after the basalt was intruded. And finally then, the youngest rock here is the andesite, because the andesite cuts across the dolerite, cuts across the conglomerate. Now we can't see it directly cutting across the basalt, but because we know it's younger than the dolerite, it therefore must also be younger than the basalt. If we look at where marble would form, I've highlighted the area on the map here. Marble is what forms when limestone gets heated. So where we have the limestone in contact with igneous rock, with what would have been magma, that's where we can have marble forming in the baked margins. Those of you that dug deeper, I asked you which way the photograph was taken for photograph F. Which direction was the camera pointing? It may seem like a weird question, but it does come up in geology exams because it's all about orientating the geological features. Now, in this case, photograph F was taken with the camera looking to the west. I've put an arrow on the map there to show which way the camera was pointing. If you look at the photo, you can see the conglomerate is dipping down to the right-hand side of the photograph. And we can see on the map that the beds here are roughly dipping to the north. So if right on the photograph is north, because that's where the beds are dipping down, the left then must be south. So if you've got north on your right, south on your left, you're going to be facing west. Okay. I hope you're able to get some good answers to those questions. If you've got any queries about it, please get in touch. I'll see you then.